take a look here. It's not the Bizzarrini. There it is. The Bizzarrini. Wow. Okay, so here's the backstory. 4 or 5 years ago, a buddy of mine called me and said, hey, there's a secret collection down here. You got to find a way to get in. It never ended up working out. Now, fast forward to about 4 or 5 weeks ago, the owner of that very collection reached out and said, I'm trying to sell all these cars. I want to be able to detail them, make them look great. Can you come down and detail them? I said, not a problem. I was totally thrilled to do it. Oh, by the way, would you mind if I film? Now, on a side note, some customers are cool with that and some customers don't want to be filmed. This gentleman was very cool and he was like, yeah, absolutely, you can film it, but you can't reveal my location and you can't reveal my name. And I said, not a problem, happy to do that. Now, over the years, I've been able to do a lot of collections, so I've seen a lot of cool things. But when I walked into this one, I was completely overwhelmed for multiple reasons, one of which, there's so many cars packed in such a tight little space that it was insane. I can't even describe it to you, so you gotta watch this. The other thing was, a lot of these cars were 20, 30, 40 years, no one has seen them. So there's just caked on layers of dust, which to me is incredibly exciting. They're the ultimate barn finds. Now, if you go through the collection and you look, there's cars, there's Pintos all the way ranging to Ferrari Lusos. And in this case, this is a Bizzarrini, which is an incredibly rare car. In fact, they don't even know how many are still in existence. So to see one in real life and then get the opportunity to detail it was just sort of, as a detail, it's kind of like life altering. It was a big deal. Anyways, I just wanted to give you a bit of the backstory so that when you go into this episode, you can be like, whoa, and understand the magnitude of what's really going on here. So with that being said, I hope you enjoy the episode.
Welcome. You guys have heard about barn finds. This is barn finds times 200 or 300. Take a look. There's a little bit of everything here. We have customs, we have low mile cars that have been sitting out of sight for 20, 30, 40 years. This collection was started back in the late 70s. And as the gentleman would buy cars, he would stash them in here and other buildings in the area, and haven't been seen by the public since, whether they were purchased at auctions or private collections or whatever. No one has seen this. And so welcome, you're getting your first peek.
At this point, Holly gave us the first ever car-by-car tour of building 1 of 3 in total,
one of 10 in the country,
which is roughly 30 minutes of footage as we walk through the maze to find the first of many cars I was asked to detail, and this one was the Bizzarrini P538, of which Wikipedia claims that there might be 2 or as many as 6 in the entire world. If you want to see the uncut walkthrough of building number 1, make sure you hit the subscribe button to be notified of my next full tour episode. Keep in mind, most, if not all, of these cars are for sale. There's an email in the description if you want to speak to someone about buying a car you've seen in this episode or any future episodes. After the tour, I asked Holly why now, after 30 plus years, are they going up for sale?
So what's really going on here is the owner has had a great time collecting all of these babies all of these years, since he was 18 or 19 years old. But now it's time to let them see the world again, see the daylight, and let someone else enjoy them. So Larry, that's why we brought you here, to give us a hand with getting some of them dolled up a little bit better, bring them back to life, and so they look better for folks like you, and let someone else play with them and enjoy them and make them smile. Because I think that's what all car collecting is about, is whatever makes you smile. But remember, there's 3 buildings, so it goes on and on and on.
Truth be told, I only really saw 1 building and maybe a half of another one during my visit, and the hardware that I was told that was in building number 3 is even crazier than I saw in building 1 and 2, so I'm dying to get a glimpse of what's behind door number 3. If and when I do, I'll definitely bring you guys along with me on the tour, but for now, let's get the Bizzarrini detailed and ready for auction. Okay, so the first thing we need to do now that we've found the Bizzarrini amongst the 8 million cars that seem to be in here, is to set up some lights. So we have some lights, as you can see right here, but certainly not enough to light anything up. We're running extension cords all over the floor. I'm holding the camera because there's just so much honestly going on right now. And there's a bunch of people here, and we're making sure that everything stays the way that it should stay. If you look, for example, this Dodge Dart, I mean, look at the amount of original dust and whatnot on the car. I mean, every one of them was like this, and I couldn't even see half the cars that are here, just to be honest with you. Like this one here, I mean, look at this thing. From what I'm told, there's only one of one like this. It's a race car from Oldsmobile. I mean, look at this, another Lamborghini GT40. I mean, they're all over the place and there's no lighting. So again, back there, we have to set up sort of a makeshift detailing area with some lights, but this should be the most ridiculous detail I've ever done in my life. I guess that makes sense. You have a lot of cars, you're probably gonna have a lot of tires. With as much light as we could get based on the available outlets in the warehouse, we assessed the current condition of the paint and interior, then removed the back trunk lid, revealing the Chevrolet-powered V8. According to Wikipedia, the only two known V8 Bizzarrinis were owned by the Duke of Aosta, which was a unique coupe version of the P538 because the Duke was super tall and he couldn't fit in the existing car, and the other one was owned by Giuliano at Ital Design. It's fair to say that not much is known about where all the cars went. These were, quote, the only V8s that could be reliably confirmed as Bizzarrini built in the 1960s. During the 1950s, Giotto Bizzarrini worked as a chief engineer at Ferrari on projects like the 250 GTO, 250 TR, and the 250 GT short wheelbase, some of the most desirable Ferraris ever made. But in 1961, he left Ferrari and formed his own company, Bizzarrini, in 1963. And after all my research, no one is entirely clear on what happened 50 plus years ago, as there hasn't been a correct accounting of the P538s, so finding this one locked away for 30 years is quite rare. This is number 003, and if that wasn't enough, I was told after the detail that the owner also owns number 004 as well, so this is going to be a historically significant detail. Step 1 was to use AMMO Frothy to lift and remove 30 years of dust and junk from the surface just to get an idea of the true condition of the paint. Same sort of idea as a patient taking off their clothes before surgery. The surgeon can't really fix what he can't properly see. Now, in my case, even if I had access to a hose, obviously I do not, I'm in the back of a warehouse here, this is an open cockpit and a non-watertight race car, which is exactly why I originally created Frothy years ago, and now has become super popular with car owners in apartments, cities, or drought areas that have no access to water or garden hose. With the first layer of junk removed, some areas had what looked like splatter or something that was really stuck on, so we let Frothy sit for a few minutes to soften whatever it was, and it eventually came off. Same kind of steps on the mirrors. This was just years of caked on dust or whatever it was, and the rest would need to be polished later on, but we're already making progress. With all the tools and the extra parts out of the car, Dan quickly vacuumed up the carpets and the seats with our battery-powered vacuum, while I used compressed air to dislodge dust from the floor-mounted seats to be vacuumed up a little bit easier. Next, I cleaned the seats. They looked okay, but the condition was somewhat unknown. So to do this, I used a lather interior cleanser for a few initial wipes, along with a soft bristle interior brush. Think of it similar to the mow-down technique when you're working on very oxidized paint. It's the same kind of concept here. When the interiors are really dirty or they're old or they're unknown, it's best to focus on a preliminary or gentle cleaning phase first, just to remove the top layer of junk and then to assess how the interior is holding up after you did that. Notice how the towel looked after just a few wipes. It was dirty, but it didn't have any black dye transferred onto the microfiber towel, which is a good thing. With the first interior tests holding up well, we repeated the steps on the remaining interior surfaces. Once done, and since the seats were responding well to this agitation, we increased the cleaning power by a half step. To do this, coat the leather in AMMO lather, then use a steam machine with a towel wrapped on the head so the stiff bristles aren't exposed. Introducing heat increases the cleaning ability of a chemical while opening up the pores of the material to help release the dirt in the cleaning process. This should only be performed after attempting an initial test successfully. There was one spot on the seat that was really stubborn, so we used a direct spray nozzle to heat up the goo and then wiped. This step was repeated several times to avoid overheating the surface or scratching the material. After a few minutes of wiping and heating, the goo was released and the seat wasn't damaged in the process. With the seats now clean and warm, we massaged AMMO Mousse leather conditioner into the seats because they were super dehydrated, to say the very least, and within a few seconds, they absorbed all the conditioner. So we had to keep adding more conditioner throughout the day, as some areas absorbed more than others, leaving behind dry spots, which is super common on old seats in this condition. Then I used a bit of steam on the outside of the car, which I typically do not recommend because of the lack of lubrication. However, in this case, I was using the pressure of the steam machine to flush out the dirt and the dust from the intricate areas around the fuel fill, the emblems, and the mirror attachments. Next, we clayed the paint using Frothy as a lubricant. Not much came off, but there were a few spots with bumps and contamination that I didn't want to interfere with my pad polish combination. Keeping with the least aggressive approach in mind, we used a foam pad and light polish to slowly remove the top layer of dead skin. Before we can safely go after the years of swirls, you first must remove the top layer of dried out paint, otherwise that residue is likely to interfere with your preservation process. Notice the difference from left to right. It's almost like there's a thin layer of enamel that has been metaphorically peeled off, allowing us to effectively work on the swirl safely. Now keep in mind, with single stage paint this old, you'll need to blow out the residue frequently to keep the pad as clean as possible, which will give you the most cut and best finish that the pad and liquid combo can possibly achieve. After polishing the paint on speed 3 with medium downward pressure, the top layer of dead skin seemed to be coming off with no surprises, which was encouraging. As you can see, step 1 was a huge difference when compared to similar original paint on the Noble on the left side of the screen there, but there was only so far I could lean over to polish the lower half of the driver's side paint because the Bizzarrini was parked so close to the Noble that I couldn't reach that lower part. After lunch, we came back and noticed that the car had been moved by the owner, who does not want to be on camera, so that we could access the rear quarter and the rear wheel. Now, with a little more space, I was working on the lower portions of the driver's side, while Dan was focusing on the mirrors, which had a ton of stains and caked on dirt. To clean these up, he used a microfiber cutting pad on a 3-inch DA with polish to lift the stains, which looked a whole lot better, but they certainly weren't perfect when he was done. Afterwards, I repolished the areas that needed a little bit more work, and Dan focused on the 3-inch tool in the tight areas. With all the wheels easily accessible now, we cleaned them with steam and plum wheel cleaner on the rubber and the wheel itself to lift the dirt and grime safely before washing or wiping it away with a microfiber towel. The before and after is huge. Next, we focused on the engine, which required us to pull the back cover off, revealing the Chevy Corvette 327 cubic inch naturally aspirated V8 with 4 Weber carbs on top, pushing 355 horse attached to a 5-speed manual transaxle with specific gearing for the racetrack. The engine sits on a tubular frame wrapped in a fiberglass body weighing just over 2,000 pounds. The name P538 is derived from the word posterior or rear for the letter P, while the 538 stands for 5.3-liter V8, hence P538. Now, the prices range from about $750,000 to $1 million, but that's based on its condition and its heritage. So, with that being said, we carefully steamed the engine to remove dust and spiderwebs, but overall, it was in really good shape. Afterwards, we blew out the tight spots to remove any of the remaining moisture and cleaned the jams and engine compartment before gently reinstalling the back cover. After quickly cleaning the tiny windshield with the 3-towel method and adding yet another layer of leather conditioner to the really thirsty seats, we applied 2 layers of Reflex sheet coat for protection and that wet look we all want, especially before coming out in public for the first time in over 30 years. Well guys, we're all done and the Bizzarrini looks amazing. Certainly a before and after compared to the Noble here. We have a lot of work coming up on a future episode. Now, if you're interested in some of these cars that are for sale, I will have a link in the description for more information. Of course, if you found this video helpful or fun or interesting, please subscribe and hit the thumbs up button. Now, if you have any questions for me, you know where to find me, Larry at AMMONYC.com. Now, if you guys have a particular car you'd like me to do next, let me know in the comments below. As always, thanks for watching. We'll see you guys next time. Well, guys, I hope you enjoyed the episode. If you like this one, I think you'll like the one down here. It's a Mercedes that hasn't been washed in over 37 years. It's an amazing before and after reveal. Likewise, I have all new apparel that's in. You can find it down below this video right here in the YouTube merchandise links. Thanks for watching.